Hello, 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 everyone. We are back to Can We Talk Executive Conversations. My name is Tamiko Drummond, the co host for today. I'm super excited, as always, because I have my other co host, Lawrence Henderson, in the building. Lawrence,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
can't wait. I cannot wait about this topic and our
hmm
awesome guest, but let me let you speak.
What is going on, everybody? And as you can see, Tamiko is excited, like she always is. I am Lawrence Henderson, the boss, and we are back with Can We Talk Executive Conversations. And I'm super excited about our guest today. And as you can see from his title, is Mr. Paul Bryant, Vice President at H.J. Russell in External Affairs. And again, if anybody doesn't know who H.J. Russell is, and you in the South or you just in America, period, you better smack yourself. It's one of the largest African American owned businesses in the state of Georgia and in the country. And he plays a role as it pertains to public facing, extending the Russell brand into communities that they build in, that they invest in. And again, he is somebody who me and him have had several leadership conversations over the past year since I've been trying to get him in my class at Morehouse College. And so we're excited to have him today in the role he serves in, talking about leadership, talking about all that good stuff. Before we get into that, Paul, what's
Yes,
up, sir?
sir.
How are you?
Oh, I'm just fine, thank you. And I just want to say, thank you, Tamiko. Thank you, Lawrence. It's an honor and a privilege to be here.
Mhm.
You're talking about leadership. That's one of my favorite topics. So,
Yes, sir.
let's get it on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And before we get to that, for those who aren't familiar with H.J. Russell and Company, what is it that you do for the company? And then we'll navigate through.
Okay. Well, I'm the vice president of external affairs. I'm part of the H.J. Russell senior leadership team. I report directly to our chairman, Michael Russell, and I do a variety of different things. I'm the guy that was handing checks to politicians at fundraisers and corporate events. I'm also in charge of Russell Cares, which is the philanthropic arm of the company that makes sure that we're a good corporate citizen. I just had lunch today with this young lady with a business called Facts to Thrive. Only 2-year-old company, but really interesting concept. And they go around to senior towers teaching elderly how to maneuver their telephones. You think about that. You're 70, 80 years old. It might be intimidating walking in the Apple store. And so they're like a mobile Apple store to our senior population. Really cool. So I get an opportunity to meet a lot of different people doing a lot of good things in the community. But the really thing that I do that's really exciting about my job is I'm also on the business development team. As Michael says, I'm the Russell ground game. My real talent, my real strength is my ability to build relationships. I'm the king of the cold call. If I meet you, we're going to develop some sort of relationship. And with H.J. Russell, I get to work with politicians, business people, anyone that may be involved with a $400 million project. They're going to build a new convention center. They're going to build a new stadium. I'm the guy that's out trying to build that connection and bring that back to my company. And I'll be honest, that's kind of exciting to me. That kind of tweaks my ego to, be at the table when deals like that come through.
That is exciting. That is absolutely exciting. And I'm excited to go into our topic for today. So, I know you've written multiple books, but today's topic is interpersonal economics. And y'all, he's written a book on this. Right there. There it is.
Finger off the name. Yeah, that's it.
Right. So, Paul, if you could tell us what is interpersonal economics?
Interpersonal Economics deals with the economic value of having strong, and I hate this word, but that's how it's been defined, that everyone knows what it is.
Mhm.
It's the economic value of having strong soft skills. You know, at one point in time, I was a adjunct professor,
Mhm.
and I would, and I worked for Gallup, the Gallup poll in the past. So I was always measuring things. And so I would observe my class, my students as they come into the classroom. And what I noticed was very smart, very intelligent people that would come in the classroom, but they'd immediately sit down and get into their telephone, their laptop, their tablet, and they really had no interaction with each other, their classmates. And just, what the University of Life has taught me is that, yes, your technical skills, your resume is going to get you in the door. But every other door that opens up after you get in an organization is based on, your people skills, because people hire and promote those that they know, that they trust, and that they like. And if you're a jerk, why would anybody want to work with a jerk every day and spend that time with somebody that they really don't like? That's it. And so I just kind of, just started taking some of my experiences, how I came from, boy in the hood, uh, through a football scholarship to, eventually earning two master's degrees and having a full scholarship to college, I mean, to law school, and then having my mind opened up because of my education to a world that I never dreamed of. A lot of that was, I had to learn on the fly. And a lot of those people skills came because I was in environments and places that neither I or anyone in my family had been before. And so I had to know how to maneuver to get to those next levels. And so I kind of cataloged the things that worked for me and put them in a book that I could share with my students.
Wow, 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 wow. And when you think about it, so I'm assuming this book was written several years ago, and due to the pandemic and the state of the world as we navigate, how have you been using the things inside interpersonal economics to help leaders that you come into contact with, organizations that you engage with? How have you helped them kind of reframe the path forward in this next reality, if you will?
Well, with this virtual world, all of the elements can be tape recorded, and where you have a classroom of 30, 40 people, now you can put on YouTube or do a webinar, and it can reach thousands. It's a different environment. Personally, I like the 40-person in class version because I need that human interaction. I'm sorry, but I just believe that Tamiko is even more dynamic and more charming and just more in person than sitting here looking at the screen. And, we're humans. God put us here. We're humans, and there's no substitute for human interaction. So I miss that.
Wow. Um, and thank you for that, Paul. Let me ask you something. You mentioned that you developed interpersonal economics when you saw that your students did not interact. So they were great on paper, didn't interact in class, got on their computers or just in their textbook or on their phones. Now, what if that person was like an introvert? Like, how do you know, or can interpersonal economics help people to kind of come out of their shell so that they're able to interact and get the correct interaction to help them to go navigate through whatever they need to navigate through?
Absolutely, absolutely. Interpersonal economics. Each of the metrics there are nothing more than, like, say, an arrow in your quiver. I mean, so you know how to use it. How many of us have been in a situation we've been invited to a lunch or a dinner, or we've been invited to a meeting and we don't know anyone there. And so it's like, where do you go? Do I look for all of the men and I go talk to the guys, or do I go and look for all of the African Americans and go, over there and talk to all the black people, or do I look for all the young folk and I hang out with the young folk, or is it old folks? Where do how do I get in to fit in? And one of the chapters in the book is called a purpose living conversation. And basically, how do you start and how do you sustain a conversation? Because I mean, as and it's also the tag here is, 9 steps to successfully navigate corporate culture. Um, you need to know what I found is that I started my career in the management training program at First National Bank. And they quickly found out at the bank that this guy has good personal skills. So I was going to every lunch, every dinner. I was a guy. Bank had tickets, send Paul out there, which was wonderful because I'm like, hey, I'm 23, 24 years old. I'm single. So I got to eat. I survived a couple of years off of those, lunches and dinners. But at any rate, I go to these tables and people would be talking with each other, and I'd just be sitting there like a bump on a log. And then all of a sudden, it's like they turn their focus on me. Okay, Paul, where did you go to school? What did you major in? Where do you live? What do you do? And they'd ask me a series of questions, and I felt like I was a puppet, just having my strings pulled. And then once they got tired of me, they went back to their conversation, and I just sat there. And I said, I want to come in. I want to be the guy that can sit down at the table and take charge, direct what everyone is talking about. Change the subject and have everyone engaged and following me in that. I'd get on the elevator at work and nobody would talk. Just look at me as if I didn't exist. And I'm like, I'm going to make these people talk to me. And so I kind of started using, just things that work, things that I've read, and this this purpose living conversation was kind of drawn out of some things that I learned from the great Dale Carnegie, How to Make Friends and Influence People. And one of the things he had was like a conversational stack. And I took his conversational stack and put my little secret sauce on it. And, it's really worked. I get emails from people. It's easy. I wrote this book in 2010. I wrote The Purpose Living Leader, my first book, in 2008. And I get emails from people to this day talking about, things that I've taught in that class.
Yeah. And when you think about just the different dynamics, right, of all that society offers us today that steal our attention, and when you think about yourself as an executive going into these different spaces, and I love that you told us a story about that early on in that drive, right, to not only just be seen but to also be heard and begin to exercise your voice so early on. How have you again helped leaders, direct reports, mentees navigate that fear of leaning in to using their voice in different spaces that they're finding themselves in?
It's a lot easier, when you get these gray hairs, because you can be the voice of wisdom. I just want to share something with you. Been around the block a few, been around the block a few times, young fella. Let me tell you something. I know you didn't mean to do this. I know you didn't mean to say something, but let me just give you another perspective. Let me tell you how this looks. And what I find, I'm coming from a really sincere place, and it's been received. I've never approached someone and had them be like, man, stay in your lane. It's 100% of the time it's been received. Now, if they take it and use it, that's another thing, but they at least allow me to voice my point. And I think, we didn't touch on this, but there was a period of time where I was really focused on, leadership, and I ran a leadership program, and my target was specifically African American males, young males, and that was just my passion. I just, you know, I saw them dropping by the wayside at an alarming rate. I knew too many sisters that I went to school with, that I worked with, that were like, single, and like, where's somebody for me? And it hurt, because but I'm married, happily married, but I have female friends, and we're talking, and it's like, you have any friends, Paul? Where are the brothers at? And I know that these are ladies that, could actually be the queen for somebody, absolute queen. And I'm looking around and I'm like, where are the brothers for them? And instead of being someone that just sits back and like criticizes, black men need to do this or we ain't doing that, I'm like, how could I help? And I thought the way that I could best help is to help to nurture and develop the next generation of black men so they got it. That's just, a small inkling of, my divided thoughts on everything that happened, that Oscars last night. I would just, one thing I'd say was, this was a black man stepping up for his wife and his family. And maybe, his actions were wrong, but, you know, you know, I don't know how that affected her, but I know he was standing up for her. And I can't just condemn that, because there's too many situations where we talk about, where was the father, where was the brother, the black man should do this. And this was a black man that says, man, you're not going to make my wife the butt end of a joke on an international audience, no. And so that's part of how I feel about it. Now, there's a whole nother side too, that deals with interpersonal economics.
Yeah.
It wasn't the right thing to do, but I respect a man standing up for his woman.
I totally understand that. I was trying to get my face face right. Oh, that's a hot topic today. The slap that was heard all around the world.
Yeah.
But someone asked, so Robert here asked, and I do want to ask you another question. Robert asked, what is your approach for a successful first meeting? So what does that look like? You teaching someone interpersonal economics, how do they, what do they say the first time they're meeting someone?
Okay, so successful first meeting, that first meeting, you always want them to remember you. I want to leave that first meeting being the guy they want to hire. Maybe that first meeting's the interview. When I leave that interview, I want them to say, we don't need to look anymore. We got it. That's him. That's my goal. So my first meeting is at that luncheon that I was talking about, where I didn't know anybody, and I'm going to meet with a team of their people, and we got a reserved table. I could just walk up and have a seat at that table and wait for somebody to introduce me, but I'll kind of wait to the program. I'll wait to see that everybody started. And then when I come up, I'll start where my open seat is, and I will go to my right or left, and I shake everybody's everyone's hand individually, and introduce myself. I'll go around that whole table and one-on-one give an introduction to everybody, and I can really see when I'm kind of driving the ship, the relationship, is when about that second or third person in, people start standing up. So when I get around to them, they're standing up, waiting to meet me. And for just my first introduction, right, the first time we've met, that first meeting, I'm taking command of that whole table of people. And a lot of times it's Caucasian people, and when they see a black man come in there and just take and suck the air, take the power, and then when I sit down, I come with something, like, wow, I sure learned out. I don't know how I got to sit in this seat at this table with all of these intelligent, attractive people. Uh, and make everybody smile, say something, make and get them to smile. And I've established a positive first impression right off the bat.
Paul out here making grown people blush out in public. That's what you just described. So what you do
That
in
is
public,
right.
you make sure that everybody at the table feel 10 feet tall and
Absolutely.
they blush by the end of it. So Robert, there you go. Make them blush.
Right. Make
That's
them
Make them
blush.
blush. And here's the unspoken.
Yeah.
One of the things I think chapter 1 in interpersonal, it's called the executive handshake.
Oh,
And
it is.
the executive handshake is so important, especially with my young brothers, right?
Yes.
Because we can do a head.
Right.
We got all kind of shakes. And
Yep.
if we're on the basketball court or if we're at the mall or depending where we are, we're gonna give each other that shake. But when we're meeting an executive, I don't care black or white. If it was Barack Obama, I'm gonna give him the executive handshake. And they're like 6 elements. I teach a freaking handshake.
It's needed. It's
Yes. It's like what, 6 or 7 steps. Let me see. First step is good posture, right? I'm executive handshake. My head is up, my shoulders are straight. I'm in good posture. When I'm walking around that table, I'm not leaning to the side. I'm standing up like a soldier at attention. So first thing is good posture. Second is eye contact. You got to look that person directly in the eye, and then the third step is that you shoot from the hip. You're not coming up high. You're not going down low. It's you shoot straight from the hip. Yep. And then you go back to what I call this little area right here.
Yeah, the little crevice.
Yeah, I call it. Hey, I've named it, Lawrence. It's the thumb pocket. You go all the way back to the thumb pocket. You don't shake somebody's fingers. You don't shake the knuckles. You go back to the thumb pocket. And then the next step is a firm squeeze. You give that limp noodle, wet fish handshake. It says something. Right. And then you lean forward. You don't cocoa butt the person, but you just kind of forward because, there's the nonverbal communication. People you like, you want to be next to. You go on a date, you sit close to that person, right? You take a client to the game, you're not going to sit him in this section and you sit in that section, you're going to sit next to him. And so if you're shaking somebody's hand and you're leaning way back like they have halitosis or something, that sends nonverbal communication. So you just kind of gently lean forward like it's a pleasure to meet you. You let them know that you're open to getting close.
Right. But not too close. Because then you have the close talkers and you like, hold on.
Yeah. You're not cocoa button. Wait. No, you just it's just a little, hey, it's nice to meet you. You just again, it's the nonverbal.
Yeah. And go ahead, Tamiko.
Quickly, I just want to say, so in the book, Interpersonal Economics, is there a one for dating, or that whole thing applies? In there, do you have a note that says for dating, while you're dating, this is what you do?
No, but I could do.
It sounds like a part 2 to me.
It do. That's the one you and Robin got to be your co-author on that one.
That's right. That's right. But hey, University of Life has taught me a lot about that too.
Right.
Yep. And when you think about and again, the funny part about this is a lot of what you're talking about in the book, and then again, the things that I really believe are missing today as we all try to figure out when we gonna go back outside and be around people, and just what you're talking about, just with something as simple as a handshake, that ability to kind of that spatial awareness, if you will, in that interpersonal. And to me, it seems like there's a bit of awareness that needs to be present. And when you're teaching your students, and as you again have your mentees, and do you have mentees, and kind of what are the things that you share with them today about how to make sure they're showing up in spaces?
Well, but the first lesson I teach, it doesn't matter if it's college students, and I just want to say that there was a period in my life where I did consulting work. I took my intellectual capital and Bryco, I did consulting, and I had contracts with Walmart. I taught 150 Walmart store managers. I did a session for the all 150 of the Black leaders at International Paper, and also for CNA Industries, which was a medical employment recruiting firm. And so it was same with them as it was with my college students. My first lesson is not original. It came from a right guard commercial. You can date yourself whether you know that what this commercial was, but that commercial went, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And in that commercial, they would show people doing different things, like a teacher, writing something on the board. And, their hand went up to write on the board and they had a perspiration ring under there. And it's like, you don't want that impression, but if you use Right Guard deodorant, your first impression will be positive. And so I always start with that. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. I don't care, student, teacher, whomever, employee, employer. And so it's just smart. It's just intelligent to make a right first impression. With my students, especially in high school, middle, college, students, period. I'm like, your first class, first day, very first day of class, you're getting your syllabus, you're introducing your new classmates, and then the bell rings. And what happens? We leave class. I'm like, absolutely. That's what you do. You leave class, you get out to the hallway or wherever, you hang out, see your friends for that 5 to 7 minutes before the next class starts, But what about this? First day, first class, you know, everybody's new. Teachers new, everybody's new. That bell rings while everybody's rushing to the back. You just casually walk down to the front of the class, stick your hand out and use that executive handshake, and you shake that teacher's hand and say, "Hi, I'm Paul Bryant and Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Drummond. I'm looking forward to this class this year. I've heard that you're an excellent teacher, and I'm looking forward to learning all I can from you." And then you turn around and go. It's going to take you all of a minute to do that. But what happens? Let's think of that on a real level. Mrs. Drummond has put her heart into teaching. She went and she got a degree. She got qualified to teach. She's did her intern years or whatever you go through to become a teacher. She's went through all of that. Now she's out of school and it's the first day. She's talking to her husband. She's talking to her sister. She's talking to her mother about, school, her new class. And at the end of the day, they're going to ask her, well, how was it? How was school? How was your first day? What's your class like? And she's going to say, it's just all good. But this one class, this one little guy named Paul Bryant walked down and introduced himself and told me that he was looking forward to learning from me this year. And you have already set yourself up in her mind as an A student. And people hire and promote those that they know, that they trust, and that they like. And you are starting off with her knowing you and liking you. And that's the way you want to do it.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And that's so true, right?
Mhm.
Because you're right then and there, you're building that affinity for that person. It's like, wow, you
Yes,
just validated me. Thank you so much. Now you've got me in that, I've got you in my memory. And
exactly.
right, that's a
So when,
great first impression. I wanted to ask you,
mhm,
um, you mentioned to us that leadership, you wrote the book on it, right? Leadership is super important to you. Um, how are you seeing, what do you think the major responsibilities are for leaders today?
well, see, my definition of leadership
Hmm.
is having the ability to accomplish a task through other people. you know, be that sports, corporate, whatever. The leader has to be able to get other people to buy in and execute on their vision and directives. That's what a leader does. Bottom line, you got to get people to act. And I see, my first book, The Purpose Living Leader, really deals with, the purpose behind leadership. See, a lot of people in this day and age gravitate to leadership positions because you get higher pay, you know, and that's really the wrong motivation. And so this book here really talks about the symbolic struggle in society between purpose living leaders and profit driven leaders. And, I can, let me do something with you guys right here. I'm just going to put out some traits of some people. And when you just name it when you think you know who it is. This person was a preacher that was raised in Atlanta, that is noted for getting MLK. You got it. Martin Luther King. Okay. Well, how about this person? Spent, I think, 27 years in jail, right out, got out of jail and was an attorney and was jailed for his beliefs, but got out of jail and ended up becoming the president of his country.
Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela. You got it. A couple more. This is good. How about this? This guy was also a man of faith, but he lived in India.
Gandhi.
Gandhi.
Okay. You said India. I'm like, everybody know this.
Well, how about this? Another person of faith, but this was a lady. And
Mother Teresa.
Bang. See, so what? I didn't talk about how much money these people made. I didn't name them. I just gave some little traits, and you knew who they were. Those four individuals there are like my purpose living leader hall of fame. I mean, those, when you think of them, you just think of goodness, of what they did. They inspire you to be, do, and become all that you can be.
Right.
And we need more leaders like that, as opposed to, oh, wow, let me see. I've never done this one before, but let's just see. This gentleman here influenced and inspired people to
Donald Trump. You don't even need to finish it. I knew we used it. All right, dude. All right. The fact that you teed it up at I ain't never done this one before.
So, so what sort of leadership is that? I mean, people died.
Yeah.
People died. They broke windows and climbed in the building, the Capitol. I mean, that was the influence. And so, we really need to look at who we're following. I mean, there are a lot of people that are blindly following. I mean, good people, I'm sure. I mean, good mothers, fathers, parents, people that have some very good qualities about them have got caught up in the sauce, and they are being influenced to do some things that I guarantee you 5-10 years from now, they're going to look back and it's going to, what the hell was I doing?
Wow.
And so I want to put more of a spotlight on your purpose. Why you're leading? Why do you want that position? What is it that you want to accomplish? What is it for the people?
Nice. Listen, we can go on and on forever, but I want to know, is there one thing that you want to leave everyone with before we kind of close out?
Man, are we at the close already?
Already.
No, the time went by. We were just getting this conversation.
Right? So to all of your viewers out there, the hundreds and thousands of people that are tuning in every week to listen to Can We Talk, there was one thing I can leave them with. Obviously that would be my first impression, because this will be their first time listening to me. I'd want to leave them with this. God put you on this planet for a reason. there is something that you can do better than anybody on this planet. And life is nothing more than an expedition, a journey, a quest to find that thing that you master and giving it back to the world. That's what it's all about. I mean, you look at people like, well, we all know Oprah. She's so generous. She gives back, right? True happiness only comes when you're giving and when you're serving. And many of us spend a whole lifetime learning that. This world will have us being that proverbial gerbil on a treadmill. We're running fast, we're running hard, but we're not going anywhere. And true happiness comes when you find your gift, you find your talent, you're giving it back to the world, and you're helping other people live their best.
That's good.
That's good stuff. Good stuff. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for just this blip in time that you allowed us to dig into interpersonal economics. I've already dropped the link in the chat, folks, on LinkedIn. So connect with Paul on LinkedIn. Get the book Interpersonal Economics so you could dig into it and begin applying it today. And so I will hand it back off to my co-host with the most, Tamiko Drummond, to take us on out of here.
I'm super excited as always. Thank you so much, Paul. Before we close out, how do people get in touch with you other than LinkedIn? Is there a website?
PBLLC Atlanta at gmail.com. And my books are self-published. I'm kind of like them rappers, man. I want all the royalties, everything come to me. They sell a book and I get 13 cents off the dollar. That's not happening. PB LLC, Limited Liability Corporation in Atlanta, PB LLC Atlanta at gmail.com. They could email me and whatever they'd like, we could work that out.
All right, that's perfect because this is also a podcast and it's available on all podcast networks. So for those who are just listening to the audio, I want them to be able to hear that as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You all again have been listening to Can We Talk? Executive Conversations. We had the amazing Paul Bryant, VP of H.J. Russell's, just schooling us on interpersonal economics. And guess what? There's going to be a part 2 dealing with dating for men. I will be the first one buying that one.
I got invited back, Lawrence. I got invited back.
There we go. We need to hey, Tamiko said we need a rough draft.
Yes. Instead of him and his wife is collaborating on that one. So listen, it's going to be coming soon. So
interpersonal economics for lovers.
Well, what about for people who are trying to date?
Oh, for daters? For dating?
Yeah.
You should be a lover if you're going to date somebody. You just out here just willy-nilly.
The thing is, though, people have to get to the meeting part. This is going to go into another conversation, right?
You got to give them a hook, though. You got to give them a hook.
I guess so. But I'm just saying, the guys don't be approaching women now. It's a different time. But anyhow.
Hilarious. And on that note,
can we talk?
Until next time, Can We Talk Executive Conversations? We'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right,
Thank you. Goodbye.